Guys, here lately I've been getting asked a lot of questions, and even if I don't get asked questions, the looks on people's faces whenever they walk by me in Walmart or whatever, is like they're asking me a question. It's usually when they see me, it's like the first thing they notice is my lack of eyebrows. And as soon as they look at me, their eyes and face, their facial expression, they're like that face that says, "What is wrong with that guy?" It's like the biggest problem with people is that they don't take into consideration that maybe the person looks the way they do because of something they can't help, rather than trying to make a fashion statement or to be different. Because there are a lot of people out there that will do certain things, weird, strange things, just to be different, to draw attention to themselves. And I can tell you this right now, that is not what I have done. Like, literally, I have this really strange disorder. It's called alopecia areata. It's a rare autoimmune disease that you really don't know that you have until it strikes. Like, it does not give you a warning. Like, I had a full head of hair, luscious brown locks, up until age 25. And then one day, I noticed that my scalp, like certain parts of it were tender, like really sore, almost like somebody had hit me in the head with something. And not only that, whenever I'd lay down at night, like my head would be really itchy, and I would had just gotten out of the shower, and it was driving me crazy, like the itching and the burning and all the little tender spots. But I never really thought much of it until I started noticing that I was finding like clumps of hair in the shower. And at first I thought they were my wife's, because women shed hair a lot. And throughout the years, I'd get in the shower and see the hair, like the long strands, just like matted to the wall of the shower, almost like she had decorated it on purpose to give me something to look at while I was in there. But then I started noticing that there was more and more hair in the drain of the shower rather than on the walls. And we both had dark brown hair, so sometimes it was hard to tell. And at the time, whenever I was losing it, I actually had a decent length of hair, so a lot of the strands looked identical, at least to me anyway. But when I started noticing that the drain was getting clogged in the shower, that's when I realized that it was my hair that was falling out, because I went to run my hand through my hair when I was washing it, and when I pulled my hand back, there was like a whole handful of hair, which immediately scared the crap out of me. I'm not gonna lie to you, because whenever you have no idea what's going on, the first thought in your mind is, I had something seriously wrong with me, I'm dying or whatever, but which obviously isn't the case. So I called my doctor the next day and tried to explain that what was going on, and he couldn't tell me much. He just basically told me to come in and have an examination done, because he had no idea what I was even talking about. And I went down to the doctor the next day, and whenever I took my hat off and showed it to him, he was like, "Oh," he's like, "Yeah, you have lost a lot of hair." And he said, "You have some pretty decent sized bald spots showing up." And I said, "Yeah, I'm aware of that now." And he said, "Well, I'm not a dermatologist, but," he said, "I will set you up with one." And the nearest one is in Harrisburg, and he set me up an appointment. He told me he couldn't diagnose me because he really had no idea, because there were so many causes for hair loss that it's hard to tell exactly what's causing it. So I went to the dermatologist in Harrisburg. Nicest dermatologist I've ever been to, Dr. Kanister. Nicest guy, very polite. And what's funny is, my actual GP had no idea what was happening to me. So I went in there to the dermatologist. He sat me down on a chair, shined a light over my head, looked at me for like 30 seconds, and said, "Alopecia." And I was like, what the fuck is that? I've never even heard of it. I've never had it before. Luckily, because there are a lot of people who have this crap as a child and have to deal with it all the way through school, and deal with the ridicule, the bullies, the mean remarks, the rude stares. And I'm so fortunate that I never had to deal with that throughout my school years. Very fortunate. Luckily, it didn't develop on me, like I said, until I was like 25. So I went a pretty good time range with a head full of hair. But yeah, he took like one look at me. He didn't even really examine me. He just kind of looked at my bald spots and was like, alopecia. And I was like, yeah, what in the hell is that? Does that mean I'm dying? And I was freaking out. I've been stressing about it for as long as I realized that it was happening. And he sat me down and he said, alopecia is a rare autoimmune disease. No one really knows what triggers it. All we know is how to treat the symptoms. There's no cure. You can't really treat the underlying issue because no one knows what that underlying issue is. So he said the only way to help the hair return is to treat the symptoms, which is the hair loss. And the biggest way of doing that is to use topical steroids or oral steroids, or actually have steroids injected into the bald spots in your scalp, which is the route that I ended up going because the shots were the most effective. And at the time, my hair and my appearance was like, it was like very important. It was like my world. It's like I felt like I was losing a part of myself. I felt like I was losing my identity, which in reality, I really didn't lose my identity, because even with the way I look now, people that haven't even seen me since it's started can still recognize me. So they just say, "Oh, you got shorter hair, or did you shave your hair off, or whatever?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do shave my hair. Actually, I have a routine of shaving like every 2 to 3 days to keep it short. Believe me, with this type of hair loss, it's much easier just to shave it and keep it shaved. Especially if you're a guy. It's less maintenance. It cuts down on shower time. You're in and out of the shower a lot quicker. Less shampoo. Whatever. You don't have to worry about having a bad hair day. That's for sure." And, I mean, most of my family, of course, have been supportive. I mean, if they have talked about me, have said anything negative about me, it's been, obviously, I haven't known about it. I've had some, friends that, have talked about me behind my back. They think I don't know about it, but I do. I'm always way ahead of people. I wasn't born yesterday. I mean, people think, oh, Chris isn't aware of this, but Chris is always aware, believe me. Which was actually hurtful, because if it had been one of my friends in my position, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that. I will admit that in the past, in my wild days, whenever I was basically an alcoholic, and I've said some pretty mean things to people and gave people a hard time, and now that something's happened to me, I've realized that it wasn't funny, that it was just downright mean. Sometimes it's sad how people have to find out these things. They have to have a personal experience, a bad experience, in order to realize that what they're doing to other people isn't right. You learn the hard way sometimes. That's just life. But anyway, I've had people ask me, what happened to your eyebrows? Why do you look the way you do? And it's because of this autoimmune disease. It's not something that I can help. It's not something that I asked for, believe me. It's just some things in life happen that's out of your control. You can't do anything about it. I mean, all you can do is really just suck it up, deal with it. People either accept it or they don't. And the ones that accept it are meant keeping around, and they're worth keeping around, and the ones that don't accept it aren't worth your time. That's the way I look at it. But anyway, yeah. But what's the funniest thing to me, actually, is considering that cancer, and I hate talking about cancer because it's terrible, considering that cancer is a big cause of hair loss, which people actually misconstrue. Cancer doesn't cause hair loss. It's chemotherapy that causes hair loss. But they look at people like me, and their first thought is, he's got cancer. She's got cancer. I wonder what stage she's in. He's in, whatever. They walk up to me, and they are the nicest. They think I'm dying. And I'm over here cracking up. I'm cracking up because I'm actually, other than this, I'm actually in really good health. I'm actually in better health now with the hair loss than I was with a head full of hair. Because when I had a head full of hair, I was drinking all the time. I was a heavy smoker. I ate like crap. I was just living a very hard life. I'm actually a lot healthier now that this has happened. And it may seem crazy, but it is. It's the truth. It is. I'm actually in better health now. I'm actually in really good health. Every time I go to the doctor, have my blood work done, it's always perfect. My cholesterol, my triglycerides, blood pressure, right on cue. My sodium, everything. I mean, everything looks good. The only thing that doesn't look good is this patchy hair loss. I mean, that's why I keep it shaved off. Do I look better with a head full of hair? You're dang right I do. I'll agree 100%. But you don't always get what you want. That's just life. And, yeah, but it's like, once I explain to people that I don't have cancer, and that I actually have an autoimmune disease that isn't life-threatening or contagious, and that I'm not dying, once I explain to them that I am not dying, and that I'm actually in good shape, their facial expressions all, "Oh, I've never heard of that before. I've never heard of that. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." And then the comedy of their sorrow gets me every time. Because as sad as it is, this disease is not as known as it should be. If only there was more awareness to this disorder, this disease. I hate calling it a disease because it makes me feel like I'm impaired or something, and I'm not impaired whatsoever. I can still do all the things I want to do. If I want to go out to the bar and have a beer, it won't do a thing regarding my hair loss. My hair loss has nothing to do with anything that I've done in my life. It's something internal that you cannot control. A lot of times it's just grafted into your DNA somehow. And certain triggers cause it to come forth and present symptoms. What those triggers are, I don't know. Nobody does. Like I said before, if we knew the triggers of this disease, then we could have better treatments on how to control it. But we don't. There are some new, what they call JAK inhibitors, which basically block these little cells from clustering around the hair follicle and attacking it, which is basically what causes the hair loss. You have these white T cells. They're called killer T cells. Basically the same cells that prevent you, or that fight off a sickness. They cluster around your hair follicles as if they're foreign, and then they attack them to the point of ejecting the hair. But these new JAK inhibitors are very successful. There are people who have this disease or disorder, whatever, worse than me. Don't have a single hair on their body. Take this medication for 30 days and have more hair than Chewbacca. That's how successful it is. But yet it's not approved by the FDA because there hasn't been enough studies done on the medication in order to prove it. But yes, and long story short, this is for the whole world. Everybody who is unaware of alopecia. The reason I look the way I do is because I have alopecia. I do not have cancer. I am not dying. I'm 100% healthy. I just look a little weird. I just look a little weird. That's literally the only thing wrong with me. That's literally the only thing, the only difference separating me and you is the amount of hair. That is literally it. That is literally it. And besides, you know what they say. Bald's the new sexy. And if that's the case, I'm already way ahead of you. My wife digs it. You know what I mean?